Welcome to WWB Ward Wide Broadcast. Welcome, guys, to episode 14. I'm Harry. We got Billy here, Tyler, the normal, but we also got a new member, KC. He's our guest today.
Yo.
KC, hi. Do you want to give us a little spiel maybe about how you got into Ward?
Yeah, I got into Ward just 2 months ago. A local card shop was holding a game night, and I'm a Magic player. I went down there for Magic that night and played Magic with just my Magic friends. Didn't even talk to anybody about Ward. But like 2 days later, I went back, talked to the shop owner. I was like, "Can you tell me, a little bit about what this Ward is? Kind of walk me through a game." And as he was doing that, Scott walked in the door, and he was kind enough he bought 2 starter decks so he could walk me through a game. And I thought it was totally fun. I was instantly hooked, and I left the card shop that evening with a booster box of cards.
You missed the part where when you were playing Magic, all the other people around you were just screaming, Ward, Ward, Ward.
Just about.
Yeah.
Just about.
The funny thing about that night too is me and Harry made the trip up there just because I don't know, we were just obviously trying to make our rounds, try to make it to whatever Ward's throwing, and Harry was actually talking a little bit of smack when he seen there was a bunch of Magic players behind him. He's like, "Dang, what are all these guys doing?
Yeah,
playing the better card game."
Yeah,
I sat down at the table next to you guys, and I look over my shoulder. I'm like, "Are they playing Magic over there?" It's like I thought this was Ward here.
the funny
Scott
thing
said-
too is I don't even remember seeing you guys there. Never even paid attention.
Well, now you'll
Scott
never.
said that Scott said that you kicked his ass too with Swamp Dragon.
I did. I dropped Swamp Dragon turn 1, and it took me the whole game, and I stomped
Heck.
him with it.
Heck yeah.
Let's go.
Well, Casey, now you won't ever forget us, okay? Because now you're on the podcast. But
Right,
speaking
yeah.
of the podcast, we might as well talk about our topic. So I thought we'd bring up. There was a big discussion in the Discord. I mean, Casey, you were kind of actually the person running the discussion of having side decks and the importance of having side deck in a card game. And you even asked the question of should Ward have side decks? And I thought that'd be a pretty cool topic for us all to start with, maybe discuss and have our opinions on. So if we just want to go around, I mean, Casey, since you kind of started it off, did you want to kind of lead the discussion? Like, what's your thought with the side decks, and should Ward have them?
Sure. I kind of think as the longer this game goes and the larger the card pool gets, you'll see a lot of more various deck strategies, and like I said, the larger the game gets, it's going to become more and more inevitable that you're going to be able to build a deck that's going to handle everything. And so I feel like the game will get to a point, probably very soon, where a sideboard will be, in tournament play, would be kind of almost a necessity, really, because, like I said, you'll build your deck to, accommodate beating a lot of things, but there's always going to be that one thing that will kind of stomp your strategy that your deck is trying to do. And it just feels really bad when you come up against, like, if you're in a tournament and you come up against that deck, it just feels really bad that you're going to get crushed because you almost have no chance against a certain strategy. So that's where a sideboard would come into play. Like, swap out a couple cards in your deck to, maybe fight against the strategy that you're weak against, or even altogether change the strategy of your deck. I mean, like, whatever your deck plan might be, you might be able to swap out enough cards so your deck wins a different way or with a different card that maybe your opponent's not expecting. So I feel like, yeah, sideboard will become kind of a necessity in the future as the game gets bigger.
I like the take. Anyone else want to share their thoughts on if we need to sideboard in Ward? Maybe Billy?
Yeah,
Tyler, you can go.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. I agree. Yeah, it's like with the sideboard, kind of to go off of what Casey was talking about. When it comes to matchups like Steam, for example, Steam wants to build a certain way. It wants to build where it's going to be building like Adam, for example, he builds a Steam Burn deck, a deck that wants to have his Steam creature not obviously get targeted with magic cards, but then also burn their opponent down. When he goes against another Steam player, that feels awful. There's now possibly 6 or more, like 3 or more cards in his deck that are now completely dead to most of the deck that they're playing against. And because of that, Steam matchups tend to be pretty boring because of that. So I mean that would fix some mirror matchups like that where it's like a sideboard comes in, and yeah, it doesn't have to be a lot of cards. You could start with 3 or 4 and just have it there. So if you ever play against Steam or something like that, you won't feel it won't be nearly as boring of a match, and it might even be a little bit more like balanced, I guess. And then on top of that, um, card one card that I think of right away is Psychic Toad. You're playing Psychic Toad in your deck because you're scared of things like Perfect Shark or Creators or things with heroism. If you have Psychic Toad in your deck and you're playing against Alkanost, you have a dead creature. That creature is going to basically do nothing. You're going to grab the Alkanost, it's going to come over, and then they're going to kill the Psychic Toad the next turn. I don't want that card in my deck against that, but I need it against some matchups. It is so vital. Like again in Steam, for example. If I'm playing Steam and I have a Psychic Toad in my deck and I'm playing against Perfect Shark and I steal a Perfect Shark, that's huge. But if I steal Alkanost, that Psychic Toad is dead. If I have a sideboard, I might be able to swap that in and out based on the matchup, and it would make it like it would make it feel better, and that would also add like a little bit more strategy to the card game and competitive. So
Gotcha. How about you, Billy? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of sideboards. So long as it's got a cap and you have to submit it before you start the tournament, and you can't swap cards in and out of your sideboard. Because yeah, all the points you made are very correct, and it helps with the matchups that it's impossible to do anything about. It helps with the matchups where you have dead cards in your deck now because they're playing a certain way. And also, it adds not new. It adds another layer to preparing for tournaments, right? Because you have to prepare your main deck and what you're going to handle for most of the matches you're going to come up against. But you also have to think about, okay, my deck is weak against these two decks. I'm going to put, I don't know, maybe I'll put a Mind Sap, and maybe I'll put a Twister, and maybe I'll put a, I don't know, something else on my sideboard. I don't know how big the sideboard should be. I kind of think around 5 or 6 cards, something small, just, a card here or there that you could swap out for something to make it a little bit more in your favor. And then also you have to consider, like, okay, if I'm using a sideboard and my opponent is using this deck, what are they going to sideboard in to try to help against my deck? So there's a lot of this, like, counter side decking. Now, I guess you don't have that as much since we don't do 203s in tournaments mostly, but I mean, after like the second round, everyone knows what everyone's playing. So at that point, a Steam user, start deck, Alkanost, limited someone, what have you. So yeah, I'm a big fan. Definitely something maybe to explore. Maybe like an unofficial tournament can try one. I think Globe's done it before, right?
yeah, they had one where it was 6 card sideboard, and that was best of 3s. But that was like the first tournament we ever played that wasn't a draft.
That was only Gen. That was
also
only Gen 2, right? As well.
Yeah,
so.
that was during Maniac. I remember my sideboard was like martial arts man and fucking Irresistible Love or something.
Don't laugh at it now, but yeah, a little different than it is nowadays, huh? No.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Yeah, but Casey's right. I mean, as the game as more cards are added and there's just more options out there, it's going to be a very beneficial thing to have. And I mean, hopefully it gets added at some point. I think we need to do a couple tournaments to figure out what feels correct, because we're all kind of figuring that out together, right?
Right.
Well, it's like the trick thing of having like a 30 card deck as well. Is like you have to have like a big enough number that it feels reasonable and actually makes a difference, but it can't be like it's literally like 6 is fine, 7 like breaks the game. Like it literally
No,
is.
yeah.
It's such a
I almost
fine
think
line.
it's either 5 or 6 or 4 or 5.
Yeah,
It's got to
so
be low,
crazy.
Yeah, in Magic, like it's always been 15 cards, and honestly, I kind of feel like that's just a little too big because a Magic
Yeah.
deck is 60 cards. You get a 15 card sideboard. I mean, that's a
25%
quarter
of your
of your
deck.
deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a
That's
lot.
crazy.
Like
It,
if we did that in Ward, I feel like it's too much. That would mean your sideboard is either like 7 or 8 cards.
Yeah.
I feel like
No, that feels
seven
like
is
too
too
much.
much. Like right where we're all guessing, like 5 or 6, probably the great starting point.
yeah. I mean, to give
But
my
like I really like 6 just because this game has the max rule of 3 copies of a card. If you have a 6 card sideboard, you could just
And it's 2 play
swap out,
sets.
yeah, two
Yeah.
sets of 3 if you wanted to.
I guess to give my opinion, like you were saying, Casey, you come from Magic, I come from Yu-Gi-Oh, and Yu-Gi-Oh does the same thing. They have the 15 card side decks, and like you said, obviously those decks are a little more than they are, in Ward, like with the 30 card pool. And I guess this is maybe where I'm gonna be I'll be the opponent to all you guys. I honestly think Ward should keep it just to the deck and not actually have a side deck. I guess my major thing that I think about when I played Ward, at least so far, is how many varieties of different cards have been available and have been played and have won tournaments, and like also the fact that it's just like we at the top here all sit and like Tyler said it many times. Billy, I'm sure you sit there, and Casey, I'm sure now you've put a lot of thought into thinking about cards, and it's just like I like the fact that right now you can sit there and try to think of all these solutions like you were saying, Tyler, like, oh, I have to think about this matchup and then what cards I need to have in my deck, and like actually building a 30 card deck is kind of the challenge in itself to try to give yourself the best chance to win, right? Because it's like a lot of times you have to leave out certain cards that it's like, okay, like I can't use this, right? I'm not able to make this work in my deck, and I think it actually makes for like more unique decks to be played. Like you said, there's like different kinds of decks. We have the limited summon, you have the burn, you have certain things, and it's like, yeah, maybe you have to go a little hard in one category. And like you said, maybe you don't always have like a perfect out. But I also think it's like in a game of dice rolls, I think it's okay to not have the perfect answer to get out of those certain matchups, because the fact that the dice rolls kind of can like makes the matchups more favorable on both sides.
Well, I don't think any of us are arguing in favor of it needing to happen right now. I think we're all talking about that it's something that needs to be on their mind for in the future. Like right now, 300 cards, 300 some odd cards is fine. But once they get to 600 or 750 or 900, eventually there's going to be a point where, yeah, I do agree with you. Deck building is fun and it's great and it's amazing. I get to sit here and build this 30 card deck where I have to think of all these different matchups. But eventually there's going to be a point where I build a deck and I can put all of these different things to deal with these different matchups. But there's going to be one that I cannot deal with. And I'm going to run into that in tournament. And I'm like, that feels terrible. That feels so bad. Why would I ever want to go to a tournament again? I'm literally just gambling on whether or not I go against this deck in bracket or not. And if I do, I lose. And it's like that could potentially come to a point where it's like when there's so many cards available in a card game, that happens. Like, same thing within Magic. There's some times where you go up against a deck that you are weak into and you just get slashed. And you know you're going to get slashed. It is going to be a 10% chance that you win that game. And if you do win it, incredible. They had the worst hand ever, you had the best hand ever. But I don't like that feeling of going to a tournament and me having to pray that I don't face a certain deck in bracket because I have a 10% chance of beating them. Like, and that will happen eventually.
It actually happened to me in Magic once. I was at a large tournament, like around 100 players or whatever, and round one, I went up against the deck that just destroyed mine. I lost my very first round, which put me in the losers bracket for the rest of the day. And by the time I got to the end of the tournament, I didn't have enough points to finish at the top because I was in the loser bracket right after game one. And it's like if I wouldn't have played that deck in my first round, it would have been massively different. But yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't ever want to have to look at a tournament and be like, if I didn't play that one deck, I want it to be I don't want to feel like I lost a game, which kind of funny enough, obviously against like Billy, there is certain times where you lose in this game when you don't get to play a card, which happens, but that's just card games at the top. But it's like I don't ever want to feel like I said, I don't want to go to a tournament and be like praying that I don't play this one deck, and if I do, I just am down in the dumps.
But
Like it just feels so bad. And then Casey, for the rest of his life now, he thinks about that tournament. He's like, "What
Rest of
if
his life.
I didn't play that one deck? That one deck?
Yep.
Like, what if
Yeah.
I dodge that deck?"
I hear you. I guess the argument I want to make, at least in my opinion with Ward, is like I said, the dice rolls I think do make the matchups usually more in like not so one sided to like a 10%. Well, you know what I mean? It's like just by having that,
Right
RNG
now,
in the game.
yes.
Yeah,
But
and I
we-
guess you're
Cards
right.
come-
There's no guarantee in the future that that can be maintained, right? And I guess that
it's
just
almost the closest thing I can do right now to say something is like imagine if this deck that you're playing against had bug spray in it and you were playing a bug deck every single the only deck you don't want to play this deck, but this is the deck that you have to face, and it's like it's like, God, why can't I just have something in my deck on the sideboard that I can at least, but no, like I have to, you know what I mean? Like it's that idea of just being dreaded, being like this deck is so much more hard for me to beat, even if I'm an incredible card player. Just the cards make it so hard for me to win, and it's like the sideboard alleviates that stress a little bit. Like, yeah,
I
maybe
mean-
it doesn't go from a 10% to a 50%, but maybe it goes from a 10 to a 15%, and that's 5% more chance. Like, I don't know.
I've got a pretty good example, Tyler. In the Runes and Relics tournament that me and Erica played in, the only one I played in, it was best of threes. They allowed unlimited sideboard, which I didn't really know until we started playing. Except after like
Yeah.
the first match I lost, that they were
Unlimited
like, "Oh, they're like, by the way, you're allowed to like side out cards." I'm like, "I changed my deck." I played against someone. My deck was really good, but I played against someone who was playing 3 time melts, and I had my whole deck was negates, and I had
Yeah.
no field clear in it, and I was like,
Yeah.
so like, I got creamed on game 1, and I was like, "Oh, it's sideboard. Am I allowed to swap out? It's unlimited. Great. 3 twisters, and I take out 3 melodies." I'm like, "All right, let's play again." Crushed. It's like,
But yeah.
'cause I just like I had
That's
an
the
option
perfect
for
example.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and like, would I have, if I had 5 cards, would I have put maybe 2 twisters in there? Yeah, probably. I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it at the time. But also, the way that I look at sideboards is that if like, let's say there's 1,000 cards, 10,000 cards in Ward, and you've just got, essentially like a 30-way rock paper scissors, and you've got like the best rock combination that gets into a bunch of matchups, but there's one that that just doesn't work. It's
The
the
paper,
ultimate
man.
paper.
It's the
It will
paper.
always beat you, and at that point you're not actually going
not
in a
playing the
tournament
game.
of who is the better player. You're doing
Yeah.
who lined up their decks in the right bracketology to make it to the
Yeah,
rock paper scissors at the
Exactly.
top.
Yeah,
Alright.
And that's-
it's almost like it becomes solved right before the tournament even begins, and it's like that's
why I like sideboards, because it actually gives you a chance to test. Okay, and put in a bad situation, did I prepare to maybe give me a better chance?
So I just want to take it from there. I think you guys are making good points about just having a sideboard. Again, I personally feel that the way I do about it with like no sideboard, but I like if we were to implement a sideboard, like you guys were already bringing up ideas like, oh, how many cards will we have in it? Like, how would it work in the way that they run the official tournaments? Because right now they're all bracket, so it's like, would we switch everything to best of threes? Would we switch them to
could still
ways?
you could still play best of ones and do it. Obviously, it's not nearly as
Yeah.
good, but maybe you play a game and you just aren't feeling what you were feeling in your deck, and you want to change out 3 cards. Okay, have at her. You don't. It's not like it has to be there to be like, oh, I'm playing against this person now. I need to research. Like, oh, now I need to put these cards in my like. It doesn't have to be there for that. In best of threes, sure, probably becomes something like that, but like it just makes it so yeah. If the I don't know. And like Billy said, after game 1, you know every deck that you're going to be playing against. Like, when I'm playing, it's like, okay, Michelle, she's playing Alkanos. Jeremy's playing that playing the Dawn of the Chickens deck.
Triple
Oh, there's
creators.
Chris. He's the Shark Man. Oh, Billy's playing this deck. You know, most of the time you know who you're going to be playing against. So it's not like this big thing where it's like, oh, you have to play in a best of 3 in order for it to matter. If I'm playing against Harry, maybe I'd slide in 3 cards that were off, you know, just for maybe, I don't know. Like, maybe Harry's
could,
seen me play these cards and now I want to slide. I don't know. You get it. But Casey.
I could see a way how this would work is at Magic's highest levels, like their championships, you have to submit your deck list, your full 60 and your 15 sideboard cards. You have to have it written down, submit it. If at any time during the tournament they check your deck and your deck doesn't align with what you submitted, like you get a game loss, because that's technically, it's counted as cheating. You're giving misinformation, but
you're lucky you're not getting DQ'd at that point.
Well, and that's the thing.
Right.
I feel like Ward. Sorry, not to cut you off, Casey. I feel like Ward is already kind of doing those things. Like, when it comes to official tournaments, they are. I would say they make sure at least the untaps. They make sure that you have all the. You're using those cards, and same with they check your decks and things. So it's like I agree. I think that is a very important part that they have to do. But I think Ward is kind of covering those things. Sorry, you can continue though and go on with how Magic handles it.
But at that high level up there, when, the way Magic works is, you play your first round with your deck, and then, after that you can sideboard. Well, at the top level like that, you can actually look at your opponent's registered deck. So you can see what they have in their sideboard, you can see their full 60 cards, and then you can determine what you want to be sideboarding. Now, if we do something like that in Ward, even in the the best of 1 tournaments, like, you could submit your 30 card deck in your 6 card sideboard, and then, you play your 1 round, and then it'd be like, Tyler would be like, oh, I know I'm going to have to play Harry in like the next round. I can sideboard in these 3 cards before we play our game. That's when you could sideboard.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
I love.
Yeah, I think like you said, it's like, as long as you have a way to be like, Billy's always talked about that too, is just like, as long as everything is finalized and put in there, and you were kind of saying, Casey, it's like, if they have your whole list of everyone's deck and everyone can view the list, like, it's like, okay, yeah, like, I think that definitely gives it more of a fairness with the whole, like, okay, now I can build my side, or like my side deck, like, you can see my side deck, I can see yours, I can even play around your side deck, with what you've brought. I actually really like that the fact that it's like everybody gets shown those cards. I don't know if everybody would agree with that in the Ward community, but like it makes a lot of sense for at least tournament play for sure, and like you said, for all the official things.
I actually think at the highest level, like, I don't know, it doesn't really matter like if you know what cards are in my deck or not.
Right, especially like you said, when we've all been playing with them and like knowing how they function.
It depends on how I pilot it and when I play certain cards. It's not like you're looking at my hand; you just know what's in my deck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, I know your 30 card deck, but we sat down, we shuffled, you're getting your 30 cards in a random order, and you're making all kinds of choices. You might make different choices that I don't expect you to make, and it changes the game. So, who cares if I know all 30 cards you're running?
With his Alkanos, he has Turncoat in his Alkanos deck, and he just randomly Turncoats. Like, fucking weird, but he did it, and he won.
He did it. Like, yeah, it worked.
Caught me off guard. It happens.
I'm a little curious though. Does anyone think we should do best of 3s at all? Like, do you think maybe, like you said, with the sideboard?
I would love it. I've always loved best of 3s, but I just understand time constraints. That's just probably not possible. Like, we can barely squeeze out a fucking single elimination tournament out. I can't imagine a best of 3 20-person tournament. Double limit.
Yeah.
Like, you either get double lim or you get best of 3. You either get double lim or you get best of 3. You can't have both.
Right.
I would love both, but
like you said, yeah, like I said, I was just curious, like, how far you'd want the sideboard to go, because, like you said, I think that would also be, maybe for, like, the last 3, like, semifinals, finals, or whatever, those are all best of 3s, and it's, like, now the sideboard really gets opened up and utilized, but...
It could be interesting, but the thing that you run into with that is if you have best of 3s, and you have double eliminations, the weird thing that you run into is what happens at the end. Like you'd have to do essentially 2 best of 3 bracket resets, and that turns into a possibility of 6 war games.
Nah. Yeah,
That's
I
a long.
agree.
That's a long time right there. That's a long
and
time.
the game's already the game's long enough, and I don't think they're interested, that they being the staff, in making cards that do a lot of searching, a lot of drawing, a lot of. I don't think they want to speed up the game. I think the game is at a good pace at where it is. It makes it unique. Best of 1 is fine. Double elimination.
Secretly, I just really need I need more games to know that I can beat Billy's deck. That's all I really want out of that.
Would I be sad if we threw one tournament a year that was like a weekend tournament that was like double elimination best of 3? I'd go to it. Hell yeah. But I just think
sure, I'd go to it. It might be a long day.
No, it'd be a weekend. It'd probably be like a Saturday Sunday thing.
Oh gosh.
If you wanted it to be realistic. But
How
like
do
I said, it'd be, if they did it once, I'd try it.
So how do you feel? Do you think 6
unrealistic for people?
Do you think 6 then? 6 side, if you did a sideboard, 6 cards would be like a good amount for Ward?
I mean, Adam in the chat, he's just like 6 is still 20% of the deck. True.
Yeah. Well,
I'd say 5 or 6.
But the whole
It's
point
gotta
of
be
the
the sweet
sideboard
spot.
is you want to be able to change what your deck is doing. Like,
yeah.
you need enough cards to change what your deck is doing. Like, if your sideboard is 2 cards, it's like, seriously, who cares? That's hardly going to change anything at all.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just making sure Adam's being heard in the chat, you know.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, but like Casey, I think you're kind of saying is like 20%, right? It's like I think 20% is a good amount to change of your deck to be like, here, this actually will potentially give me this better like chance of winning in this matchup that I probably wouldn't win in. So it's like, yeah. I think 6 cards makes a lot of sense, and like you said, that's 2 copies. Like that's 3 copies. You know, you could do 2 sets of 3 copies of cards, basically. Is what
Imagine I could have put it. Fucking Ignitimas in my deck against Billy's Scarlet.
Yeah.
That would have been fucking crazy, dude.
Where a sideboard could be a necessity is going up against a Scarlet player. You're like, oh my god, you're like, I have to roll out of this thing? Like,
we both know about that the hard way.
And just nuke it.
Yeah, Billy, just do the number, right? Billy, just the numbers, Mason.
me and him have both won and lost a tournament against each other because of that exact reason. I've lost a tournament against him because I didn't have a Scarlet thing, and then a couple months later, he lost a tournament to me because he didn't have anything for Scarlet in his deck.
But I think the best part was Billy was like, the numbers. The numbers mean that I will roll out of it.
No, it's crazy because like I'm the numbers guy, right? And I said the statistics say that Scarlet will last for 4 turns or whatever, therefore it's good enough. What I did not foresee is Tyler going, okay, I do have a Scarlet, and yes, it will last 4 turns if you're only rolling 2 dice. And then he puts Creator's Gift on my creature, and I'm like,
every single one of his creature I put Creator's Gift on, and I just sat there and smacked him with Scarlet for 2 games straight while he did nothing. It was the most boring games of War you'll ever see.
Awful.
Just him rolling 4 dice, missing, me rolling 1 dice for damage, and then passing the turn, and he just never got out of it for 2 games.
Honestly, should have scooped, but I mean. But the thing is I'm not going to sit here and complain about Scarlet being busted. No, it's my own dang fault. I did not prepare for that. I just relied on stats, and Tyler slapped stats in the face and said, "Here you go." And I didn't prepare for it, so it's on me, you know.
I agree. And
Adam said, "What's the point in running certain decks if someone can swap out 2 cards to counter you? The point of running Scarlet is that most people don't run Ignitema."
Yeah, I mean, and that was kind of something I was going to mention is, well, maybe not so much in his vein, but like cards in general have pretty good counters to other cards. And I think with Ward, I do want to just say, even though it is a 30-card deck, I think the flexibility of, like I said, it's not a game where you need to run 3 copies of a creature. You need to run 3 copies of every card. And like, I actually think it is kind of fun when you get nitty-gritty down to it. I mean, there's times, Tyler, where we were brewing up decks and it's just like, do you need 3 copies? Maybe we can only do 2, you know? And like, I think that like give and take kind of happens, and I think it's kind of cool because, like I said, in Ward, I feel like it's a lot different from a lot of other card games where it's like a lot of other card games, I need 3 copies just for consistency because, like Casey was saying, my deck is 60 cards. In a 60 card deck, you want to make sure you have all 3 of the copies of cards you need. But like in Ward, it's like there's only 30 cards, so it's like I think it also comes in to the point of like draw power. It's just like, it's like if Ward has enough draw power, it's like, does consistency of having like that, like all those cards really matter or not? And so it's like, I don't know. That's why I just think Ward does vary a little bit from other card games where it's just like, do we need all those things,
Well, one thing, just Adam, to go on your point. Remember in the first tournament, when you were running Abominable Deer Man in your deck,
Abominable.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck you, suck. What if they don't have flash spells? Like, it would be nice to be able to take those cards out of your deck. It's kind of like that type of thing. It's like, it's not to sit here and, let me put these cards in my deck to counter you. It's to be like, maybe these cards don't work well in this matchup. Like Steam against you. Like, if people are playing against you, they don't want cards like Turncoat. It's not going to do nothing for them. Like, they'd rather just swap that out. Or for you, going against someone with Heroism. Maybe you, don't want certain cards. I don't know.
No.
It's like, that it's there to shore up weaknesses in your deck or against certain matchups to make it feel not impossible. And like Casey said, you don't want tournaments to feel like it becomes a simulator of rock, paper, scissors, and rock played scissors, rock won, rock's facing paper now, rock's not making out of here. Like, that's just not fun. Like, you don't want to be able to look at a tournament bracket and just be like, yeah, he wins, that guy wins, and then, like, that's not fun. That's boring, and it's lame.
Well, and I just think, to cap it all off, like you said, I mean, I think the sideboard talk is interesting. As we all agree, I mean, at this moment in Ward, we might not need it, but, like, you guys sound like you're all kind of in agreement of, like, in the future, we're probably going to need a sideboard of some sort with official, like, ranked play and things going forward. And so it's like, I'm kind of curious to, in the comments, if you guys are watching the video, post or say whatever, comment whatever you think, if there should be a sideboard, how many cards should be in the sideboard. Like you guys were kind of saying, how would we structure that in a tournament? I think all those things would be really fun to see, ideas that people come up with. Moving forward, though, we had another topic, and Casey brought it to my attention as well. Limited summon, like the power of limited summons, and going forward in the future, like how do we feel like they're gonna balance, or maybe like make the game so that the limited summons don't get too powerful? I mean, Casey, is that kind of in the vein of what we were kind of talking about earlier?
No, it was. I wanted to talk about the cards that are on the limited list.
Oh, you want to talk about limited? Okay, sorry. I thought we were talking about the limited summon, but hey, I mean, there's definitely the limited list. Do you want to maybe go over like what we were kind of bringing up or talking about earlier?
Yeah, like what I'm kind of, I guess you say, worried about is in the future of Ward. Like, where does the development of new cards go in Ward because of some of the cards on the limited list? Like, I feel like they started out at the very top of the power level, with Holy Light being like the biggest one. Just get, since this is a game that functions off of you lose when you have 300 hit points in your graveyard, just, Holy Light, just get any card you want back. Like, and now it's limited, of course, because it's just, it's like I mean, I can't imagine, the first couple months of Ward where just anything and everything was legal to the max, where you run 3 copies of some great card that you want, and you got 3 copies of Holy Light, so it's like you kind of have 6 copies of your card in your deck essentially. So, and I can see it, just I could see it the very first time I looked at the limited list. I'm like, just with my playing Ward like 1 week, I read that card and I was like, yeah, I totally understand why this is limited, just from Magic being somewhat similar. It's just when you create cards that are that powerful, they just have a general universal effect that is incredibly strong. Where does the game go in the future from there? Like, how do they make another card in this game that gets something back from your cemetery that like what do they do now? Because the Holy Light was already too good, it's limited. So where do you go from there? Like they started right at the top of the power level, and I feel like like they shouldn't have. Like they should have just kind of tested the waters with something that was a little bit weaker. Like imagine if they made Holy Light and it was just get the top card of your cemetery back.
I
The
just
game
don't think
started from
they.
there,
I don't think they knew that it would be as strong as it was. Like, and that's the hard part. It's just like when you're designing a card game, like, and especially with how they were playing the game before, like, it was with all of these cards that were basically like Omega busted. Like, all of them could just win the game. They were just way too strong, like, mythic level. And because of that, they have to, like, drop it down a notch when they're designing the games for the actual first set. And I think when they're designing it in a vacuum, in the one set as a whole, those cards are balanced. They work well. But when you start mixing them in with other cards, they didn't get nearly as much time to test those cards mixing in with other generations. And because of that, they didn't realize they made a mistake until they started designing a whole nother set. And it's already way too late to go back now, and you can only really fix things. So yeah, it probably is something that I would imagine that they might regret, but you just have to kind of accept your losses there, and you have to just be like, either you go the route that they have, which is where they have designed cards that are similar but worse, like Peddling Partridge, or I guess Holy Light doesn't really have anything that's the same thing as it yet. But obviously with Frog of Fortune and Peddling Partridge, or you just say, okay, that avenue checked. We have the best card that we can for this. This is a card that recurs any card out of the graveyard. That box is checked. Now let's go find something else to add to the game. And it's like, I don't know. They just have to figure that out. It's like, they could design worse cards, but who's going to play them? Holy Light's available. So instead of that, let's just move on. Let's accept that we've made this card. It's broken. It's the epitome and pinnacle of what this card design can be. And let's go and find something else that's interesting in the game. And accept that. And I think that's something that they will have to do.
Yeah, I think they need to be very careful in the future. Designing those cards that are just like I said, just universally good, universally powerful. Because I feel like, I mean, almost every deck you build in Ward, I almost think you would just want Holy Light, Visitor from Beyond, and Ghost of the Past. Like, if you're not running those three cards in your deck, you're not running the most powerful version of your deck that you can build. And it's if you're not running one of them cards, I feel like you almost actually really need to find a specific reason why you wouldn't be running those. It almost seems crazy like that you wouldn't be running those cards because they're just so universally good. And as this game grows and they make new cards, if they keep making cards that are universally good, Ward decks just kind of keep shrinking, because eventually everyone's going to be wanting running the same 10 cards because they're just so darn good, and then you only have 20 more cards to build your deck from there. Like that's how Magic has gone in throughout its history. Like there's cards that are just so universally good. They fit into, 10 different deck types, but the cards are just so good at what they do. You know, yeah, you might have a discard deck in Magic that, runs these 10 cards because they're the best, but you could have a burn deck in Magic that still runs those same 10 cards that they're the best. It's like it doesn't matter what deck you build, they're all running those same 10 cards because they're all the best cards, and then you start designing your deck from there. Like, decks shrink over time.
Here, let Billy get it. Sorry, Tyler. Can we I'm gonna have Billy maybe get his thoughts on it. Yeah, I know we can go back and forth, but I want to make sure everybody's getting involved in here. So, Billy, what's your thoughts on the whole power level of certain cards that are on the limited list?
Yeah, and thanks, Harry, for not letting Tyler steamroll over my comments. So, everything you said is very valid, Casey, and I agree. Not to say you're wrong, but I mean, the deck I ran that won the past two tournaments did not have a Ghost of the Past in it. So, and yes, it's because I did make a very calculated choice to not run it because I wanted other cards in there instead. that's more of an exception, but you're right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Tyler is right in that when they first made the game, there was no like, it was literally just, hey, we're just
There's
throwing
no
stuff
bar.
together. Let's
There's
see
no
it.
bar.
There's no bar. It's just like,
Yeah.
see what happens. And then like you get other people playing a certain input. They're like, oh crap. So they make the limited ban list or whatever. I guess I'll go along the I'll go along the route of you could do the one solution is just say, okay, we've had a couple sets now where we have like a creature recursion with peddling cartridges, and we have another creature recursion with whatever new card, and then eventually they just say, okay, Ghost Pass is banned, and that's it, and you can't use it. Or they say, so they say like, or they say, between Ghost of Past, Holy Light, Revival, Priest, and Visitor Beyond, you can only have one of those in your deck. You can't have two or three or whatever. You make
one
like
thing
a partial. Yeah.
one thing that no one's mentioned is something that Magic does is like, what if once it gets to 600 cards, what if they only want 600 or 450 cards in the pool? So then once Gen 4 comes out, they say, okay, Gen 1's gone in the competitive scene now. Now we're just playing Gen 2 through 4. That's the cards that you can use.
Yeah,
like,
that's set rotation, right? But
yeah.
so I guess they do. They could. I mean, there's not enough cards to do that yet.
No, just ideas for the future, you know.
I guess the only thing that,
I get it.
as Tyler, you brought up, we had a conversation too about that though. It's like, well, what I would hope they would do then, if that was the case, if they did decide to phase, like you said, sets out, it's like, okay, we were bringing up, like, bringing back cards from old sets, like we were talking about alternate artworks.
And they've said they're going to do that.
Right.
Like, and reprint cards.
Of alternate artworks or whatever, and it's just like, I don't mind if we get different variations of these Gen 1 cards in different sets. And like you said, if that allows them to have that balancing tool by using the whole phasing out of the set, right? And I think, like you said, that is a good way of how they could handle it, right? They could just say, here, in competitive play, now you can only play these cards, right? And it's just like, I mean, that's kind of what all the other card games do too. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh does it. I mean, Magic to an extent does it with certain, their formats and their standards. So it's just like, I don't see why Ward couldn't adopt a similar system to make sure that, like you were saying, it's like, here, let's fix these problems that we've already created, or maybe not problems, but things that eventually are going to need to get addressed, and this is the way we can go about it, right?
Well, you see it from a balance point of view. You see it in in real time, I guess. Gen 1 is obviously more of a Wild West set and like I was saying before, it contained Gen 1's pretty balanced on its own. Once we got to Gen 2, I mean, that's where me and you came in, Harry, and we thought that set is extremely balanced. And I mean, it's already almost been out we're closing in on, it's what, 9 months? Going to be 10 months old next month.
It could be
and we have one limited card so far. So it's like, obviously inside Gen 2 contained, it's extremely balanced. But then we also seen that once Gen 2 is mixed with Gen 1, it stays balanced. Versus Gen 1 mixing with Gen 2 completely breaks it wide open. So I think you can see from Gen 1 to Gen 2, there was a big difference in power level of cards and decisions that they made while making these cards. So I'm guessing that from Gen 2 to Gen 3, they're going to have even more of a polish on it, because not only did in Gen 1 they only had a certain amount of people playing the game at the time, so they could only take in a certain amount of ideas, but the bigger that this game goes, the more opinions that are going to be thrown in, and obviously they're going to have to pick what opinions are actually important or not, but it becomes much easier to understand what is a broken card and what is not, because like Billy was saying, we have a bar now. There's a bar, and there's cards that are up here, and there's cards that are way down here, but at least we have a way to decide on whether or not they're strong or not.
No.
Yeah, just to throw it out there real quick. When the game was released, I think the creator was 4 sacks, and it was average damage output was 45, and then Assassin was no sacks, and its average damage output was 66.
Right.
And one was 150 or just everything. That was 1/20 at the time, right? So,
Wow, 20.
I just there was no. It was Wild West, yeah, 20, yeah. So I mean, it's just Wild West,
No, and like you said,
I mean, not to mention Watcher in the wall. Like, we haven't even talked about that fucking dog shit card.
Wow.
Old Watcher, that would have made me quit the game. No cap on a stack.
Yeah, well, I
Gang.
like back to just the whole limited summons, or sorry, not limited summons. I keep saying limited list and the power level. I think we gave some solutions on how you could potentially work and fix it. I mean, Casey, are these things like you were saying as someone coming in, like is that the route you would want to take too? Or I mean, do you have any like solution yourself that's like what would be the best way to handle this? I know you do come from the Magic background, so
Yeah, it's just like developing new cards. When you think you've got something, you really got to take a step back and ask yourself these questions. Like, is this effect too strong? If we just slap a little bit of a downside on it first, make this card first, see how it performs. If it's not busted, if it's not broken, can we take it to the next level and make in like Gen 4 make a card even better? Like, can we make what we were thinking of in the first place? Like, I think they need to be careful in that way. In thinking of a strong idea, you might have to just backpedal it at first, and just start from a low point before you just reach for the moon with how strong a card is.
I think it's interesting you bring that up because it is. I don't know if I want to call it like kind of a secret blessing for the Ward staff, but I think just having where they had the Gen 1 not available and it was only Gen 2, I think Gen 2 by itself, like they've all personally told me that it's just like from the Ward staff, like we wish the game, like the way Gen 2 just on its own was like the perfect balance that they felt like their game needed. And so it's just like, I'm kind of curious. It's like how going forward, I kind of like want them to kind of just be like, here, let's just throw Gen 3 for the little bit that once Gen 3 comes out, like let's just say a couple months, let's only have it be Gen 3 in the competitive pool and then slowly add the other cards, because I don't know, I just want to see if maybe that is the key to it, is like, here, maybe we just have it be the one gen and like see how that performs and see how people react to it. But obviously, like you said, it's like that we don't want to take away all these cards that are being played in the game. But I just think
I mean, I personally would love that, as long as there's not other like tournament organizers throwing tournaments that are like all 3-gen and then like being ranked and added to the rankings.
Yeah,
that would be the only thing that would be not okay. But
well, it's hard too, because like you said, I think the Ward staff is very also they love the idea of having different formats and different versions of the game as ranked stuff. So yeah, I could see that could potentially be a problem. Sorry, Billy, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, no one knows except for the staff. But I mean, from a business perspective, it makes the most sense that when Gen 3 releases, the next 4 months of tournaments are Gen 3 only, because one, you want people to play your new cards. Yeah, I mean, that's what they did for Gen 2.
Right.
I mean,
when you just want to see what the internal like meta is, right?
Yeah, I mean, you want people to play with the new cards, and then all the sweaty tournament players are going to go hard on the new set. And then also, if you want to drive sales for your new set, you're going to say, okay, if you want to play in comp, this is what you're playing, right? I mean, it makes sense. And then as it develops, you can start adding the other sets back in. I mean, shoot, you could have a tournament format where you say, okay, for the first 3 months it's Gen 3 only, and then in month 4 we're going to say, okay, you can have 15 cards from Gen 3 and 15 cards from Gen 2, and then you can have, in the next month, you have 10, 10, and 10. You can start make some wacky formats.
Yeah, I just think you got to be a little careful, because if you're trying to make these like big end of the year things, kind of like the Ward Bowl every year, I think they need to be a little careful about like, all right, if we're only doing 1 gen a year, we need to make sure that it stays competitively, like people, like kind of how we felt about promos. We don't want it to be like, okay, we only get 4 weeks before the big, Ward Bowl this year with Gen 3 with all the cards, right? Or whatever the pool is. So it's like there has to be a healthy balance to be like, okay, this is how many, like you were saying, maybe a couple months in the beginning, and then let's just open the gate. I don't know if you want to be doing too much of this, like, here, now we slowly add more, because it's like, you might not get there fast enough. But yeah, I like the thought of like
I agree.
just letting players play with the Gen 3, and like you said, that just gives Gen 3 even more hype. Then it's like, okay, I want to get these Gen 3 cards. I want to get this whatever, right? Like Casey was saying, maybe there aren't as powerful Gen 3 cards as there are in Gen 1, but if you only make it Gen 3, now it's like, oh, now I actually really want to find that card so that if I am a competitive player, I have that competitive edge by being the one, like Casey and Tyler. I mean, they like to buy their ward cards. It's no surprise. And so, they're allowed to go buck wild and open up as many packs as they want to try to find those competitive Gen 3 cards. I really like that thought, too.
Yeah.
What do you think, Casey?
It's going to be me versus Casey for the first to 150.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
You're going to be watching it live in the Discord.
And then we got to... Then we have to get Casey on. We have to get Casey on when he beats you to the 150 and let him break.
Yeah. He wishes.
We'll have a crack a pack battle.
Yeah.
We'll take turns cracking packs, and we'll see who hits the 150 first.
No. You both crack a pack, and you have to battle with it, and then whoever wins gets to pick a card from either one of the packs.
Dude, what are you trying to what are you trying to keep us there for a fucking year? Like,
we're having.
You ever played a crack pack?
Endless
It doesn't exactly go quick.
Tyler, it's endless ward content. You're just gonna be on the field.
4, 2.
But no, Casey, how do you feel about that with Gen 3? Would you be okay if Gen 3, if the competitive scene started with a couple months of only Gen 3 cards?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. It's Ward is too small to be like Magic in that respect at the moment, but Magic has lots of formats, but the one that they call Standard is just Magic's most three or four released sets, and it constantly rotates that way. So Standard is just the new cards all the time. So it puts new players on an equal playing field with someone like myself. I can't show up with my 50 Black Lotuses and destroy somebody.
Right.
It's just so that's why when I started Ward, and then I saw there was a tournament at the Liedrich. And I read that it's a Crack-A-Pack tournament. I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to go to this because everybody's going to be on the same power level that I am. I'm not going to show up and get rolled by some powerful deck.
Right. A lot more inviting.
I like the fact that, when Gen 3 comes out, like you said, if they go a few months with the tournaments, like the ranked tournaments being just Gen 3, I think that's a fantastic idea, and like Billy said, it's a great way to sell your product. It's the hot new thing. It's going to be what everybody wants anyhow, I think.
Well, it's like the really interesting thing, though, is in the past, and when this discussion has come up, like, they've said that they believe that including all generations actually is, like, better for the newer player base, which I actually disagree with, and I feel like everyone else probably does with as well, because it's like, yeah, if Gen 3 comes out, it's much more even for someone to just come in and play in it with a set of 150 cards than have to be like, I have to learn the entire game, otherwise I can't compete. And the longer the game, the more and more cards go on, the more that makes sense.
But do you think they're more so talking about just letting all the cards be available to play, for the long run, or more so just when Gen 3 releases?
No, this was in the past when the whole Gen 1, Gen 2 discussion was going on, and they were like, it actually makes sense for us to let Gen 1, Gen 2 tournaments go on because it'll make it so that we'll have, more players want to come to these tournaments. And I was like, well, I actually disagree because I think if people only have one set to worry about, it's much easier for them to want to play.
Sorry, and kind of the thing KC brought up too is just like, okay, I'm a new player. I get in on Gen 3. Maybe let's just say Gen 1 isn't even available anymore. It's just like, and people show up to the tournament with cards that I have no access to, and then it's like, I see those cards and I'm like, wait, these cards aren't in this game, and then I go and look and it's like, oh, these were from this gen, and it's just like, okay, well now I have, you know what I mean? It's just like that whole skewed thing. It's kind of like what Casey was saying too with Magic. It's like, it's like, imagine if that was the way Magic was ran. It's like, every card is just available, and now you're jumping in at this point where it's just so overwhelming because there's just so much stuff you don't have any knowledge of.
Literally just Commander in general. It's like, oh yeah, you have 30,000 cards at your disposal. Make a 100-card deck. Like, oh
Yeah.
sounds good, dog. Never seen a Magic card. Don't even know what a land is, but you got it, boss.
But I think you're right, Tyler. Like, we all do agree. It's like, honestly, I think it might have been a little bit of a blessing in like whatever you want to call that, like by having Gen 1 need to be reprinted, and so they kind of like disabled it from the competitive scene so that it was only Gen 2. I think honestly,
that's
like
the odd thing is that they made the choice to make it reprinted, because they could have actually just reprinted a whole nother set of it being with the old art. And they were like, no, we don't want to do this because we like how the Gen 2 cards look better, and we want the Gen 1 cards to also look like that. And I'm sure Fabricio also had something to do with it.
No, and I agree. I just think
like new artwork.
I just think that the outcome that happened because of it actually was a very positive one, because of the fact, like you were just saying, it's like Gen 2 got to breathe on its own, and just watching that happen and just seeing how like even the Ward staff themselves said that they were very happy with the fact of how Gen 2 on itself like ended up, because like of how they were able to balance it, and like you were saying, when they can polish those things, I think it's like very good for them to put those on the front and center stage of every season going forward. Like you said, just 2 months or 3 months or whatever they decide for a timeline, just be like, let's just play with this. And I don't think many people are going to complain. I do know that when that whole reprint thing happened and people were like, oh, we can't play with our Gen 1 cards anymore. Like, obviously, yeah, that was pretty early on in Ward's history, and where it's just like, I get why they were upset, because, like, again, Ward was still new to them just in general, right? It's like it was only out since that April, and what was it, like 6 months before they came out with the Gen 2, or a little bit further?
It started in October 2023, or fall 2023.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just remember an Alex video. It was like it didn't hit Superior until fucking March. So
okay.
April, March.
Either way, though, Ward was still just so new that it's like I can understand why people were upset about the whole Gen 1 thing and not being able to play the cards. But I think, like you were saying, as we're going forward, it's like it isn't going to feel so bad when it's just like, oh, I can't play Gen 1 right now. Like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, like if we get to Gen 3 and it becomes only Gen 3, I'm actually happier about that, because it's like finally I get to play with cards that I fucking haven't been playing with for the entirety of my time playing this game.
Right.
I want to play with new cards and just new cards.
If you made the season like the first part of the season or a part of the season is only Gen 3, and then the rest of it is go nuts and just see what happens, like, that's great. It's also good because, like, let's say you have someone who enters in Gen 3 and they get a bunch of Gen 3 cards, and then they play some tournaments like, wow, I love this game, this is great. And then they open the floodgates and they say, okay, you can play with everything you want. They may say, oh, crap, I need some of these Gen 1 and Gen 2 cards, but I just have a bunch of Gen 3. Hey, all y'all who are trying to complete the Gen 3 set, I have a bunch of Gen 3 cards.
Right.
You have a bunch of Gen 1 and 2 cards. Let's do some trades, because it's a trading card game.
Exactly. Wow. Look at that, Billy. I love that. That was a good way to, that was a good way to cap it all off. I mean, Casey, how do you feel? It sounds like we're all kind of in agreement. Do you feel that same way, like, with it? I think that would be a good forward progression for Ward to make.
Yeah, like Billy just said, there's been plenty of times in my Magic history where I've bought a truckload of the new stuff, and some old player, some like old player that played a long time ago and just like got back into Magic is like, I need a bunch of new stuff, and I'm like, perfect. I have a truckload of new stuff, and I'd kind of like some of the old cards that you still have, so we trade.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds like you've already been into action doing those same things, and like you said, I think it's just a great way for the community to meet new people, like you said, with all the new people coming in.
When I met Casey at Lee Jerk, he just came up to me and he said, "I hear you're the guy to do trading with." I said, "I guess I am."
That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, let's end with any final thoughts. This was a very good episode. I think we covered the sideboard and the limited summon pretty well. Is there any other things going forward?
Deck.
The limited summon cards.
List.
Whatever. You know what I mean.
Limited power.
Hey, one of these days we're gonna have to touch limited summons eventually too. Don't worry, it'll come up. But anyway, anything else you guys got on your mind for Ward? I know the Ward Bowl is coming up. That'll be a fun thing.
I like how we didn't. We had a tournament last week and we didn't talk about it whatsoever.
Oh my, you're
That's
right.
exactly what I was gonna say.
Oh, all right, you're right. There was
That's really
the final ranked tournament
players are in here, and we
in
don't.
the
we're
at
not
the
talking
Curious
about it, I
Crow.
guess.
All right, at the
Okay.
Curious Crow in Lexington. You're right. Then we were the there was the top 3. I was not one of the top 3, but Billy and Tyler made it to the finals. They both.
This fucking bastard beat me again.
Yeah, but
Second
Billy
time in a row.
Billy won
He's
the
not gonna do it a
tournament.
third. I fucking swear to God.
I
He
think
won't
Billy.
do it again.
I think Billy
He
also
won't
won.
do it again.
Billy also won our bet because we said we did the over under, and I said there was gonna be 30. Tyler said there was 24 to 27 or 24
That's
to
a
30.
24. I
And
said
then
over
Bill,
24.
and then Billy had all the unders, so there's only 14 people that showed up, so yeah,
Yeah, it was
I think
14.
Billy gets the win, but I do think it's just you come to these summer months, I can understand why people are you want to get outdoors or they got other things going on, so I get it.
It's like Jake said, Ward's winter sport, disc golf summer sport.
Yeah, but like you said, I mean, hey,
That's for Jake.
not for us. We're the sweaty Ward grinders. We'll be running this forever. So
Sweat.
yeah,
50
exactly.
win season.
You gonna make it? You think you're gonna make it?
I need 3 wins. There's no shot I don't. I will fucking cry myself to sleep.
I'm really curious. They're doing it at the Rise of the Podcast studio. I'm really curious of how they decide to have it all displayed out there. I think that'll be really interesting if they have every game like broadcasted. That'd be fun. And if you let me get a hold of the mic, the WWB could definitely, give their words.
You let me get a hold of the mic.
Well, hey, I'm just saying game 1, I think we all are going to have a bye. So, why not let us get a hold of that microphone for a little bit?
You can hold it. I don't want nothing to do with it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'll
me,
definitely.
Billy, Harry, and Jesse all with the bye.
Oh, yeah.
As if Worldwide Broadcast isn't scamming the fucking tournament
Oh,
again.
whatever.
Look at us go.
Whatever. I think we're just very committed to the game at this
Couldn't
moment.
squeak Harry into third for this one, but it's alright.
Ah, yeah.
Wow.
We tried. But yeah, but like you said, I mean, we got a lot of Ward going forward. Like I said, the Ward Bowl, boss battles. I mean, I've been waiting for those.
The Globe draft this weekend.
Oh yeah,
Everybody
there
wants
is.
to go.
No, it's not a ranked. Yeah, not an official
not
ranked
ranked,
one,
not
but it is another crack pack. So I know me and Tyler will be there, and Casey, you said you'll make it out to that crack pack too. Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, and like you
Nelson will
said,
be there.
it's
John.
I just again I like to say they do a very good job of just having many different ways of playing. I mean, we brought up even potential like partner battles where you pick your partner. I think again I want to promote that. That would be awesome. I think all of us wouldn't mind having our best friend and go and play Ward in a 2v2 such like scenario too would definitely be great. But yeah, I think with that,
Me and Billy just cooking in the fucking DMs.
yeah, Dan and KC. Oh yeah, don't you worry. But anyway, guys, I think we're gonna wrap that up for episode 14. Remember to like, subscribe on YouTube, and Spotify. You can leave comments. You can follow. Yeah, everywhere. Support it, and we love giving out this content. So you guys have a great night.
Fuck you, Nell.
There it is.